Hey, y'all. Hey. Welcome to the PowerWomen podcast. This is the show where powerful women share their journeys, discuss how to solve powerful issues, and empower men who help us rise. I'm your host, Power Mom, Claire Brown. Today's PowerWomen podcast is proudly sponsored by Cupid's Lingerie, Arkansas's premier lingerie and gift store. Love is in the air, y'all. Cupid's has everything you need. Lingerie, and much more. They have 6 central Arkansas locations, and you can shop online. Visit shopcupids.com and make your next date night the best one yet. Cupids, enjoy. Hey, y'all, hey, we have Beth Gorman today, and I'm so excited, Beth. So I think, well, there's so many things that I'm excited about. One of them is that we've both been in a space of women empowerment for many years now. But you have said yes to running for office. And
Yes, I have.
Yes, you have, which is a big yes. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about being a power mom in that space as well. And then all the tools and the leadership lessons you've learned over the years to get here. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm just really happy to be here. I'm happy to be across the table from a woman empowered.
Thank you. So tell everybody, who is Beth Gorman? What does she do? Where did she come from? And what is she going to do?
I'm Beth Gorman, and I am by day, the executive director of the Women's Foundation of Arkansas. And it's a philanthropic organization that works to economically empower Arkansas's women and girls. We really want women and girls to have choices in their future, and we believe that's by economic empowerment. So we strategically look at our philanthropic investments on how we can be intentional about including women and girls in economic development in our state. So that's my day job. But my night job, I'm a wife to Colin Gorman, combat veteran, Marine combat veteran. I always have to clarify that.
Definitely. That's a big deal.
Once a Marine, always a Marine. We have 2 wonderful children, a 12-year-old son and an almost 3-year-old tiny feminist. And I am running for office. I am running to be the next Secretary of State of Arkansas.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, but, the joke is, you want something done, give it to a woman, a busy woman at that, right? So, but it's also, I think, why yes, why now? Well, if you wait for the perfect time, then you're just going to be waiting for a long time.
Right.
So you cannot let perfect be the enemy of good. And there are a lot of good reasons to be engaged right now in the democratic process. And me saying yes, I absolutely hope is an invitation for other women to say yes as well.
Yeah, I love that because, I've said that for a long time. To me personally, it's not my focus of whether you're Democrat, Independent, or Republican. It's a matter of saying yes to the role. And I think more women need to be doing that. And so I'm really grateful that you're running. And so thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I was thinking back, the first time our paths crossed and we were kind of at new junctures in our careers. I was just starting out at the Women's Foundation. Your group was just starting to take off,
right.
The Little Rock PowerWomen group, and talking about that. And it's just, it's funny where life takes you, right? I've been a public servant my entire life.
Right.
I've been doing that through this nonprofit sphere. I found out years ago that I loved working in the weeds. That's my jam. I love being in the weeds. I love, working on problems with stakeholder groups, bringing people together, identifying a common goal and identifying the strengths of each person around that table and using those strengths like we can do this. We can accomplish this. And there is collective power in bringing people together.
Sure.
I've enjoyed that space and by virtue of the journey that I've been on, my career journey, I've started to be in more spaces in the very public sector role, right? Working with different state agencies in our government and understanding, truly some of the systemic issues that women still face are, how do you change that? You change it by legislative action or by being in a different public servant role, by being an elected official.
Right.
Experience, explore, but most importantly, enjoy. Visit any of our 8 convenient Arkansas locations today. Cupid's. Enjoy.
And I think what I love about the office you're running for is it is where we start our businesses.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, I've started a few. I know just enough to be dangerous.
Sure.
Right? So just enough. And I also know the hurdles that I've experienced along with that. And you're going to be in charge, or, once you're elected, of course, we're going to put that out there.
Thank you.
Yes, once you're elected, that will be your role of helping new economic development, essentially, helping new businesses start across our country. I mean, across our state, I should say.
I think that it's so interesting to me that this office, the Secretary of State role, is very widely misunderstood about what it is and what it does. But it absolutely is the first hurdle to starting a business in Arkansas.
Right.
You have to go march yourself down to the Secretary of State's office and register your business there before you can do anything. Before you can do anything, you got, if you got a name you like for your business idea, you got to clear out to the Secretary of State. You got to register that business before you can operate legally in Arkansas.
Right.
And so that's like, I didn't know that it did. It absolutely does that. And so to me, in that it houses this repository of all of the information of our business owners, our business community, then it has the platform to advocate for that community and advocate for people who want to be in that community.
Right.
And that's what excites me.
Yes. And so, I mean, it's an unknown space for so many, because the entrepreneur mindset is a creative mindset. It's not always a business mindset. And so to have that step-by-step process laid out for you that's foolproof would be such a benefit. It would be such an asset that's not currently in place.
That's not just foolproof, that's welcoming. Right. Hey, you got an idea? Let's come source that idea. Let's start that business. Let's see what you got. Let's try that out and be like, we want you to start businesses in Arkansas. We want to see small business grow in our communities because they are the lifebloods of our communities. Right. We want to see you turn your side hustle into a vehicle of economic mobility for you and your family.
Right. I mean, because that grows everybody.
It absolutely does. Yeah. It grows. And so I've been recently talking about, the 3 priorities that I have, working on my stump speech, massaging it. And so my 3 priorities are, it's talking about strengthening, creating businesses. It's talking about the brand of Arkansas.
Yeah.
I want to change our brand. I want to grow our brand, get a good brand.
Fascinating.
And it's also, I want to talk about the business of elections.
Okay, so tell me more about the business of elections.
Okay, so just like the Secretary of State's office holds all this repository of information about businesses in Arkansas, businesses and nonprofits.
Right.
It also houses all the information about how you register as a voter. If you want to run for office, you have to file with Secretary of State. So it's literally also the repository of information resources about being an engaged citizen in democracy in Arkansas. So, and this is where I nerd out, right? Is the business side of elections.
Yeah.
And I say I nerd out, but the sad reality is that Arkansas has the lowest voter registration in the country and one of the lowest voter turnouts.
Why is that?
Again, because this office isn't using its platform to excite, empower, inspire people to engage in it.
Yeah.
It's confusing. It's cumbersome. I'm not sure. Am I registered? Where do I register? How do I register? And these are things that this office holder could and should be addressing.
Right. And do we start with that in our schools?
We do not. It's not uniform across schools anymore about civic engagement or registering yourself to vote. That's kind of the bygone era, but it doesn't have to be.
Right. And so what's the solution?
The solution, I think these are low hanging fruit. I think the solution is really that information, but it's also accessibility. Access is such a critical thing, right? So, and again, I'm going to put you on the spot because we just talked about this recently about starting your own business, right? The access to do that, the time, the resources it takes to start a business. You and I, and talking about our own journeys, you had the time, I had to go to the Secretary of State's office.
Right.
How much time did you spend up there recently?
A couple of hours. My hourly rate did not appreciate that. So the other thing is that in the past, I've also hired attorneys to do it for me that know the legalities, that know the process of what I need for my business in order to file it correctly. Because I don't know what I need to file,
right?
How to file it, where to file it, when to file it. I mean, all these things. And then the other thing is that you have to pay taxes on this. And then when are they due? And what are they? I know none of this at the time when I'm starting. I do now. And sometimes you learn the hard way.
Sometimes you learn the hard way.
Sometimes you go to file another business and they're like, well, you got to catch your other one up first, darling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, there's that. Okay, happily. Thank you. So not everybody can afford an attorney.
No.
Right? Or they don't know one. And when you're starting a business or a nonprofit, at the same time, your funds are limited. And that just doesn't need to be, that's not the American dream.
That's right.
Yeah. And so if it needs to be accessible to everyone, then that is a hurdle that shouldn't be in place.
Right. So I believe very passionately so that our public leaders, our elected officials, should be advocates for accessibility. Do you want to start a business? Great. I will help you access the opportunity to do that.
Right.
Do you want to be an engaged citizen? This is to me a very also, what drew me to this race in particular, I don't see it as a partisan race. I mean, these are the American values that we're talking about. Your role as a citizen, your right to have one voice, one vote, one voice, representation. These are things that we've promised and built our country on, these values of again, creating your own business, creating financial livelihood for you and yourself. Again, these are very, speak to me. So I'm pro-business and I am pro-democracy.
Right. And not only that, the Women's Foundation has helped women start their own businesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And actually, so the Women's Foundation of Arkansas, I've been leading it for 6 years. And in the last 3 years, we've done a lot of work around entrepreneurship as a vehicle for economic mobility, because there are different ways to grow your wealth, right?
Sure.
It's the education behind your name, it's the house you live in, it's access to retirement, but it could also be owning a business, right? That is a way for you to grow wealth. And it's interesting when you look at the statistics of how many women-owned businesses there are in our state. And we discovered through research that we commissioned that Black women outnumber their male counterparts in business ownership. Like 60% of Black women own businesses compared to their male counterparts. So we began investing in Black female entrepreneurs, like really investing in them intentionally and actually giving them capital. Right. Let's go back to something you talked about earlier, like, a lot of people that don't have access to an attorney or to someone to help them navigate that. By and large, a lot of women don't have access to those professional. And so there's this saying that social capital unlocks financial capital. And so through the programs that we host and that we design in our investments, we are bringing women social and financial capital so they can turn around and grow it on their own. Right.
Because resources are not just money.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's very, very correct.
And I think that's a limiting belief, and it gets in our way. That we're all more resourceful than we actually realize because our resources are not limited to just money. Yeah.
And I think too, how do you unlock the other resources that you have? Or how do you, again, let's talk about the networks that we believe in, that we create, right? How do you leverage those resources? Really, you leverage your network, you leverage your community, you leverage the time that you have or the time that you don't have, or you make those adjustments. And is sometimes difficult and challenging for a woman, for a community, for an individual that just doesn't see it, just doesn't see what's around them.
Yeah. And I think, our blind spots, what you're referring to. And so to get past those, I think you have to open up the conversation, which is obviously what we're doing here now.
Right.
But then with curiosity. And so many times, I know for myself, like I posed a question to one of my girlfriend groups this last weekend, like, what is it I'm not seeing? And it's really powerful when you are choosing to grow and be self-aware that you use those resources, those persons in your life of who do you know that can do this because I don't know where.
Right. And I think that as women, we all suffer at some point from this imposter syndrome. It's, I mean, and again, women more so than men, like imposter syndrome is real. It's like, I don't have, I'm not qualified for that. I don't check every single box. I shouldn't apply for that. Well, so when you step back though, and you can be kind of, okay, like what are my strengths? And then not say what are my weaknesses, but what are my opportunities for growth? Like who around me is really good at that?
Right.
Could they talk? Could I learn from them? Can I be curious about that and really strengthen that? And again, not to be captured by the fear of I don't have that, but go after that.
Right.
Lean into that curiosity, lean into that opportunity to grow.
Right.
And really then start leveraging all your talents and the different people in your life that can also bring their talent to your effort or to help champion you.
Yeah, exactly. Today's Power Women podcast is proudly sponsored by Cupid's Lingerie, Arkansas's premier lingerie and gift store. Love is in the air, y'all. Cupid's has everything you need. Lingerie, and much more. They have 6 central Arkansas locations, and you can shop online. Visit shopcupids.com and make your next date night the best one yet. Cupids, enjoy. Everything you're saying just really leads me up to saying yes to run for office. And so how many of us have that imposter syndrome of, no, I can't do that, or I'm not qualified for that, or, whatever. I don't know, for myself, I know for sure. I've thought, I don't have a law degree. I don't have experience in politics or government or this and that. And so therefore, I am not the best choice or candidate. And I'm certain there are many others that have their own story they make up and talk themselves out of, so they don't say yes as well. Did you experience any of that?
Yes, I did, as in I am, because, an answer I have like, why am I qualified to do this? But I do have life experience, right? I do have professional experience.
Right.
I'm not a lawyer,
No.
I didn't do X, but I've done a lot of other things. I've worked across the state for over a decade.
Right.
I know the very nuances of the Arkansas geography, of our cultures, of our people. I understand that very acutely. I also understand acutely what it means to do the work of equity, which is to recognize people where they are and bring them the resources that they need, not assume that they can access the resource that's available to them.
Right.
That is, I've learned that through my professional journey. And so I am uniquely qualified to talk about opportunity and access to opportunity. But I had to overcome my own audit of my skills and abilities, and where I thought I would be back, I'm like, no, because I'm not going to allow perfect be the enemy of good.
I love that. Perfect be the enemy of good. I love that. It's such a good quote.
Yeah, again,
you need that on a shirt or a bumper sticker.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
could use some help with that.
Okay. No, you can't. You can do that so easily.
No, don't ever be afraid to ask for things. But,
right.
But it's really, and I meet women and I see that we're at different stages of our lives, and, there are other people in elected office, they didn't wait for the perfect time, right?
Right. I think it's easy to look at people in office and go, they sure didn't wait for perfect to be the enemy of good.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So I definitely need to run for office. Yeah. And so then why not me?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So, because I know, and I think here's the disconnect a little bit that some people may have. I do know all the things you've done with the Women's Foundation and your previous experience with the Girl Scouts across the state and all these other things that do make you so qualified. And then the research that y'all have done with economics, with women and just within our local community as well. And then taking steps to implement things, just like you mentioned, women of color and their businesses. And so it's just, I just want to make sure that our audiences understand all the things that you've done.
Right.
That this is not just easy rhetoric.
No, I appreciate that. I'm really proud of the 2 careers that I've had here in Arkansas as a professional Girl Scout. I mean, truly working in all of our counties across the state where we had girl and adult members and really talking to them about the value of our program, not just for girl members, but for our adult volunteers.
Sure.
And like how it unlocks the potential of individuals and it empowers them and helps them become leaders in their own right. And again, there's a thing we say in Girl Scouts about, it's discover, connect, take action. You discover the community around you, you connect with the problems that are there, and you think about, and then you take action to solve problems in your community. And I use a lot of those words in my everyday, because it served me well, because I'm literally a grown-up Girl Scout.
That's right. Yeah. Cookies for life. Yeah.
But with the Women's Foundation, it has been this really just beautiful journey of understanding the challenges that women continue to face. And along the way, it's not just women, it's our whole state, it's our whole community. And again, I'm drawing on my personal experience to talk about the future that I see for Arkansas.
Right.
That I see this state from a perspective of we've got so much opportunity.
Yeah.
We just need people that are really good at unlocking access to that opportunity for everybody.
Right.
Right. That I'm not working for one particular group or organization or an entity or a population of people. I'm working for everybody.
Right.
Because you can do that in this state. I mean, you absolutely can.
Sure.
And to recognize the different communities, the different people, and bring them resources. To me, what a job!
Right?
That's exciting for me.
Yeah,
and that's and I'm looking at it like the work. The work could be so inspiring because we could really see change. I moved to Arkansas 14 years ago, and I used to hear this joke all the time about "Thank God for Mississippi."
Yeah.
So you know that joke?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm born and raised here.
Okay.
So I've heard it my entire life.
So I heard it all the time. I think I even used it a couple times. And then I thought about it. I'm like, wait a second. Like when I say, Arkansas comes at the bottom of the national list, and it's like, oh, well, thank God for Mississippi because they're below. It's like, that is me perpetuating a narrative about our state that I, 1, will not accept, and 2, I do not believe to be true.
Right.
Because I know Arkansans. I've met them. I've seen them in their communities. And we are very proud of our state. We're proud of the opportunities that exist in it. And so I now talk about that is a joke that should never be told. We should never make a joke at our expense. We should never perpetuate and move forward a narrative that I believe is false and that really talks about our state as in a position of weakness as opposed to strength.
Right. Well, reframing that, I think, would you ever say that about your children?
Never.
Exactly. So why would you say that about anything else that you have pride for?
That's right.
Or that you have ownership of? And so it's you would never say, well, thank God for so-and-so in class.
That's right.
Yeah.
You would never say that. Oh my gosh, you would never say that. I'm so glad you reframed that. And again, I'm so proud to be an Arkansan.
Yeah.
I'm proud to be raising my family here. I'm proud of our business community. I'm the chairwoman of the North Little Rock Chamber of Commerce this year. And I was never a cheerleader in high school.
I'm shocked by that, actually. I mean, really, from one cheerleader to another, I really feel that needs to be in the repertoire.
Well, I feel like, there was a job for everybody at the football games, right?
Yes.
I was like, okay, everyone, let's get together. Let's all show up for the games.
Because I really, that is so you.
Well, if I can, I will gladly take that mantle of being a cheerleader for Arkansas.
Totally.
Gladly. I think that's it's needed. It
Yeah,
absolutely
it is.
needed. And we should be really proud of the resources that exist. We should be proud of progress that we've made. We should amplify that. We should amplify the stories of progress that's yet to be made.
Right.
And how we can go about solving that.
Right. Absolutely. So it just really excites me because you have a young daughter. And for her to, because I grew up with a parent in politics. And so I learned so much civic and patriotic pride by that example. And so I try my best to pass that along to my children. And so and she's young. How old is she?
She's not yet 3.
And so I'm certain this will influence her. And so what do you hope she learns from you running?
Yeah. My mom was not a politician. My mom was a public school teacher, a public school employee. But my mom always took me with her to vote, right? Like, I literally, back in the day, I stood beside her in this little bitty, voting booth.
Right.
And she always told me about what a big deal it was that we get to go do this.
Yes.
And so now I'm doing this, and I do have a young daughter, and I've got a tween son.
Sure.
And I want them to see their parent really saying, I see things that could be fixed, and I'm doing something about that. Right? I want them to see that everyone has it in them to do good.
Right.
You just have to stand
Take
up
action.
and take action. Right? I mean, you're not sitting on the sidelines, and it's not going to impact the final game score.
Right.
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 So,
yeah. So many of us, I think we take it for granted, and we're able to complain about, policy, lawmakers, this and that. And very few of us are willing to jump into that arena.
Experience, explore, but most importantly, enjoy. Visit any of our 8 convenient Arkansas locations today. Cupids. Enjoy.
What comes to mind is Mother Brene. That's what I refer to her as. Brene Brown.
yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so it's her famous, you mentioned, or earlier you had mentioned to me, her famous man in the arena speech.
Well, and she was re-quoting Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Man in the arena. And it was really talking about, it's one thing to sit on the sidelines and make commentary. It's entirely different to get in the arena.
Yeah.
And, Brene talks about, like, what are the things that are preventing you from doing that and how you work through that. But, it's democracy demands attention. It's very personal to me and my family. My husband's a combat veteran.
Right.
A Marine. We talked about that. He's a Marine combat veteran. In fact, my husband fought alongside Ukrainian soldiers in Iraq.
Wow.
And he was deployed to Iraq in 2003. He was in a Marine Reserve unit deployed from here in Arkansas. And his unit was relieved by Ukrainian forces. And so they had an overlap time together. They patrolled together. I mean,
Sure.
This is 2003. This is the start of our
Right.
war in Iraq. And so this was not an easy time for anyone. And he was with Ukrainian forces when they celebrated their Independence Day, their version of 4th of July, on the Iranian border. And he said that, the men were it felt so different because they had only achieved independence in 1991. So this is 2003. So democracy was very
Fresh.
very tangible to them. And so he has this very, emotional and visceral response to what we're all seeing right now, the war in Ukraine, or the war on Ukraine, really. And it is one other reason why you cannot sit on the sidelines. Democracy is fragile, and it does demand attention. And if not us, who?
Right. If not, yeah.
Right? And I'm running for a constitutional office, but there are so many other positions, and democracy is everywhere. It's in your PTA. It's in your city council. It's in your JP role. It's in so many different things that you can be engaged in, and you should, because when we don't attend to it, and when we take it for granted, and we just easily sit on the sidelines and make commentary about it, that's when it becomes something that is not what we all agreed that it should be.
That's right. That's when it falls apart.
That's when it falls apart. That's it starts to crack. I mean, it's like a home, right? You don't just live in a home; you take care of your home.
Right.
So we don't just live in a democracy; we have to take care of our democracy.
I always tell clients that don't expect me to last 100 years without a nip and tuck, and don't expect your foundation to either. And democracy is very much the same.
It really is. And I we have to make things analogies so people understand that. But that's so true.
Yeah, Absolutely.
I mean, we talk a lot too now about like women need self-care, people need self, and I'm a big believer in self-care. Well, democracy needs care.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes yourself needs to get up there and do it.
Yes.
Right,
Sometimes
exactly.
yourself needs to get out there
and do it.
and do something about it. So, but there again, I think that we too often we get overwhelmed by the idea of it, and we say, to heck with it. I don't want to be engaged in that.
Right.
But then when you take on that mentality and you allow it to be something that you see on the news or someone else, like then it starts cracking.
Right. Well, you feel, well, that doesn't affect me, or it doesn't have anything to do with me. But the trickle-down effect is, it really does.
It really does.
It has something to do with your day-to-day, and you don't even recognize it. A small business. So again, I also saw this, obviously, like this impacts the lives of all our Kansans. That's right.
It truly does. Our business community across the state, voters across the state. I mean, this is really an office that touches the lives of all our Kansans, and I know that I can improve it, and I can offer my talents, my resources, my experience to make it better for all our Kansans, and I'm giving it the best shot I have.
Well, what's the quote again? There is no perfect.
Do not let perfect be the enemy of good. Do not let perfect be the enemy of good.
It's my new favorite. And what I also know for sure is that the best leaders have vision. And you have that. You've shown that. You've proven that over and over. And what better way to elect leaders into office with those with vision? So thank you so much for running. Thank you for saying yes.
Thank you. And I am in a primary. So got to win the Democratic primary on May 24th. Of 2022.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Before I get to the bigger arena.
We'll get there.
There's this arena, and then there's another arena down the road.
That's just a hurdle.
Yes.
We'll get there. Thanks, Annabeth.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, please rate and review on iTunes. And check out our website, thepowerwomen.org.